Dear Hergelia students, finally came the time when Sylvia and we can share the story. So it won't be my story alone, it will be the story of both of us. And as we were preparing with Sylvia, we were thinking we will make it in 10 steps, and in 1 hour 60 minutes. So 10 steps would be 6 minutes per one of those elements we want to share. So you have to watch the time a little bit because we don't want to make it a bedtime story for you. And the title or the theme of our message, as we are trying to present it, would be Building the Bridges. It's very special for both of us because I, as a child, grew up watching these American movies, and I always dreamt about this Golden Gate. I always saw it in those movies one way or another, and I never thought that one day I might actually walk on it. And that's exactly what happened in our wedding day. We had a honeymoon, or how it is, and that's the bridge through which we were traveling to Oregon to our honeymoon. Honey, would you like to say something about that, what I'm saying?
No, it was just a few days after we got married that
to be exact, it will be a few days after the wedding day. Our wedding day was September 9. That was for me that it's easy to remember, 9/9/2007. We couldn't wait 2 more years, it would be 9/9/9. Okay, so the second bridge you can see, that's actually from the city where I was born. That's the capital of Slovakia, called Bratislava. Petra is smiling, she knows that. And we call it sometimes UFO bridge because they put that little restaurant, and John is smiling, maybe you were right on top. I was never there, it's too expensive for common people, but visitors from India and other countries, they can afford. So it's kind of a dominant in our city, and I'll show you the perspective from that tower if you would be up on the top of the bridge. So UFO, and as an introduction to the whole story is that this is really not about us but about Him, about Jesus Christ, and it's about what He is doing in our lives. And what He is doing is not over yet, He's in the middle of the story, it's in the middle of that construction. And in the background you might notice the map of Europe, that will be from my perspective, but you will see also another map, and that would be the United States. We kind of, after we got married, we sat on the road, and for 10 years we were always somewhere traveling. And so we feel kind of like pilgrims, which for the wife is usually not the best because she wants some security, she wants her own home, her own dishes, her own spot where she can call it her own. And by God's grace, God provided for us, and as soon as we got it, we were called back to Romania, so we didn't enjoy it for too long, as you will see. I created the outline, and in this outline we will kind of take turns, and these are those 10 steps we want to go through. So the first one would be my honey talking about her childhood, how she came to Jesus in her early age. Your turn, honey.
Thank you. Hi everyone, it's nice to see you all again, even though right now I see my husband's belly. So, as Ludo said, I was born and raised in San Francisco, California. At the age of 9, we moved to a suburb called San Bruno. And
I have a map for you, honey. Let me go there.
Yes, I saw it.
So going back to that's called the Bay Area. There are like 9 million, how many? 8-9 million people living just on the little peninsula. And Sylvia was living all over these different little towns. Yeah. Not little, right? They are not small.
They're all cities. So basically, my story starts when we were growing up in San Francisco. My mom and dad were both raised Catholic, and so were we. Let's see, how do I say this? My dad worked for the Catholic Church. We even had a house that we lived in that belonged to the Catholic Church. The church was right next door to us, and the school was behind the church, so everything was in walking distance. I was about 4, my older brother was about 9, and my older brother, he's about 5 or 6. And my mom, she's always been a searcher, and she had some issues with the Catholic Church, so she was searching for different religions because she always believed in God. So she ended up first studying with the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I remember going to their assemblies and their different gatherings that they had. Then one day, I'm not sure, probably, I don't know if it was a friend or something, but my God sent Adventist coal porter to come to the house. And at the same time, there was the Jehovah's Witness there. And I remember as a small child watching all these people in our living room discussing the Bible back and forth, and my mom realized that the Adventist man was using the Bible to settle their discussions back and forth. Everything was always used with the Word of God. And so then my mom decided to study with the Adventists, and she was the only one. My dad at that point was still very Catholic, and since he worked for the church, and we lived right next door to the church, he was very. It was interesting as my dad, as a child, we didn't know this until we got older, probably teenagers, that he had gone to an Adventist school when he was in Guatemala, and he was supposed to, he was studying to get baptized, but the teachers decided that he wasn't ready to be baptized because he was too much into girls. He was always trying to flirt with the girls and stuff like that. So they decided that he wasn't ready to be baptized. And so he got really upset and he chose not to follow the Adventist church anymore. And I'm not exactly sure how old he was, but he was pretty young, probably a teenager. And so for many years, we didn't even know that my dad's family were one of the first coal porters in Guatemala. The family is very much Adventist here from my dad's side of the family. So it was a very interesting stage. So when my mom decided to be baptized, I remember we were at the church and my dad came all drunk. My dad used to be an alcoholic. It's hard to talk about him, but anyway. So anyway, he came to the church, and he was so drunk, it was so amazing. He was so drunk, and he came to tell them not to baptize my mom. But my mom was very determined, and she was baptized. So from that point on, there were so many ups and downs in our lives. I remember moving from house to house, different places and things because of my dad's alcoholism. Both of my brothers had their first communions and confirmation in the Catholic Church. I never did any of that. But I remember when we started attending the Adventist church,
Can I give you a napkin, honey?
I have one. My older brother had this question about Sabbath and Sunday. How come as Catholics we go to church on Sunday and how come Adventists go to church on Sabbath? So there was a group of us little kids. I was probably 5 at that time. My older brother Sergio was 10, 11, and Herb was probably 7, 8. And so there was, I can't remember, there were some other kids there and I just don't remember who they were. And we went from our house and we walked to the back of the church where the priests come in and out. And just as we were coming up the ramp to the church, the priest came out. His name was Father Magdul. He's a Irish Catholic priest. I just remember him so much. Always had big red cheeks and big hands. So my brother Sergio asked him, why do the Catholics go to church on Sunday and the Adventist church goes on Saturday? And he said very clearly to us, I remember it, I can see his face, I can see all of us there, and he said Saturday is the true day of rest, but the Catholics changed it, and from that moment on, I have never looked back or even questioned about the Sabbath. So from my perspective, he was honest to us as children, and it's kind of sad in a way that they're not honest to the older people. But anyway, from that point on, we stayed faithful to Adventism. We went to Spanish church for a little while, not very long, because my mom noticed that we didn't understand it very much. Then we moved to this little area, just below San Francisco, called San Bruno, and we ended up attending an English church there. And for many years, till I was an adult, I attended that church and so forth, and that has been my. And then you'll see on that map that Ludo has there's a little dot on Redwood City. Redwood City was the next church that I went to, and there's a lot of situations. That's where I grew a lot in ministry and loving ministry and wanting to do ministry, and that's the church that helped me for first time to come to Romania. So I have a lot of special memories there. So that's kind of a nutshell of my of how we became Adventists. I don't know where you are, Ollie, the picture of my family.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll just kind of share. You guys probably saw this. So it's my dad on the right side, my mom, my brother Sergio, he's the oldest. He's the one who took us to the priest. My brother Herb, and then myself. So this was at my aunt's house. And then Ludo likes this picture because that's my kindergarten picture. I noticed you put it a lot there. And this is in our home in Arizona. And this is the extended family now. So you'll see my brother Sergio in the far back with the green kind of colored shirt. His wife Margarita. My mom. This is Margarita's son Eliel. This is myself. This is my back on my dad's head. My brother Herb and his wife Kimmy. And so that's kind of our family. Of course, Ludo. Okay, then now it's your turn.
Yeah, and I took a picture of Papa from front that they can see the face.
Yeah, thank you.
In Guatemala, all men have mustache.
Did you hear that question? If in Guatemala all the men wear a mustache.
No.
No, okay.
Because I saw your brothers and your dad, all of them.
Yeah, I had to grow mine to be a part of family.
I don't know. No, they don't. Because I know a lot of them who don't have mustaches. So anyway.
Okay, so we switch to the next picture. So that should be my story. And my story starts from that UFO, from the little bridge, the dominant in the capital of Slovakia. And from that bridge, actually, from this top view, you might see different churches. This one that's the castle where the president officially resides with his offices, and this is a famous temple in a capital.
If you want, you can use the arrow of the mouse.
Yeah, let me try.
It's control.
See if that will work. The mouse doesn't want to show up. Okay, so that's the famous church because that's where the Maria Theresia, I don't know in English how you pronounce it, the famous Teresa Maria, she had like 14 or 15 children and she was crowned in this temple in our...
Mother Teresa?
How?
Mother Teresa?
Not Mother Teresa, Maria Theresia, Franz Joseph's wife, you know, they were Habsburg family, you know, that monarchy, Austria-Hungary monarchy, so she was the empress actually. And I couldn't locate exactly, but I was born not too far from the castle. Behind there is one hospital where I was born, so that's very dear to me, the whole view. And there is another church here in the downtown where I, as a teenager, was invited by my young friends to the Catholic Mass. And before I come to that point, I was actually raised half kind of Catholic, half atheist. My father was kind of very staunch against any religion. And he was like Sylvia's father, go after the girls and, enjoy your life and forget about any religion. And so I kind of ended up going that route. Even as a child, I remember maybe 9-10 years old, God gave me an amazing dream. We used to live also in different places. So we were living maybe 60 kilometers eastward from Bratislava, and next to Catholic church there was a garden, and in the garden they have this kind of a cave with a Mary, and there was also a big cross with Jesus. And that cross with Jesus, as a child, I remember his hand was already hanging down, like he's already crucified and dead. And in the dream as a child, suddenly I was kneeling under this cross next to the Catholic church, and Jesus raised his head, like that was miracle, he's moving, and he opened his eyes and he looked down at me. And I saw Jesus looking at me from the cross. I was so scared, I couldn't understand as a child, but as an adult I can kind of resonate with it, because this is something how God tries to attract me through Jesus' sacrifice to him. Because there is ultimate revelation how much God loves us, and the rest of my life I carry that dream, that picture, seeing Jesus with opening eyes on the cross after being crucified. But I ended up in nude beaches, and I ended up also, going this kind of lifestyle, which was very bad. And always I was searching for a meaning of life. I fall in love in Mahatma Gandhi. I was reading about, this whole revolution, how he was able without war, without ahimsa, without violence, to be able to deliver the whole nation of India, which are a lot of people from British Empire. And Martin Luther King in the United States, he followed Gandhi's model, and that's how he in 60s was able to bring some kind of relief for the black people in the United States. And as I was searching for the meaning of life, I ran into a friend of mine. He was playing the recorder in kind of a famous Slovak folk band. And we were kind of in this Hare Krishna movement and learning vegetarian meals, and we were burning santal wood in front of little Krishna, to bless that food, to purify it, so it was declared clean. You cook the food in kitchen, you should never use these same dishes for the meat, so it was more kosher than the Adventists would consider. And in those dishes, when you cook it, you bring it to the picture of Krishna, and you have this mantra, or I don't know how you call it, this prayer, and with his sight from the picture, he will cleanse it for you, and now it's the rest of the food can be mixed back and you can eat it. And so God was preparing me in the way for this kind of a health message, because for me it was very appealing. And this friend of mine, he had Catholic friends, and they invited him to Catholic youth, and he became converted away from this Eastern religion back to Catholicism. So now he's calling me to their group. And in that group, everybody is sitting like us right now here, but we are on the floor in the living room of another friend, and that friend was famous painter. As a young man, and actually after many, many years, maybe a couple of years ago, I found him on Facebook. I tried to communicate with him, he couldn't even recall me in memory. And this painter, he's in Catholic university teaching arts, so he's very, until now, in all of that. And he, as a painter, he painted the picture of his friend, this my friend, as what you would see just like here, what Jesus would see from the cross looking down. So you see the crowd of people with different faces, and in that crowd of people you would recognize the face of my friend. And I said, when I just one day find a painter who could do it for me, I would ask him, all my family to paint it. And whenever I run in a painter, I tell him about it, and so far nobody picked up the challenge, but hopefully one day I'll find somebody. Because that's really amazing, the perspective from Jesus' eyes, from his perspective, what he saw under the cross. And of course, that's all these faces of people. Somebody is amazed, somebody is crying at him, come down from cross, all of that. And so I'm coming to one of these churches here in the downtown. I'm not sure if it's this one, might be. And, oops, sorry. Okay, I shouldn't do that, huh? And in a Catholic Mass, they usually have certain Bible verses which they are repeating, and toward the end there is the Revelation chapter 19 where it is written, "Blessed are those who are invited to the wedding of the Lamb." And people are just listening like every Sunday this Mass and they go home, right? It's over. But for me, God was talking to me directly through this Bible verse. And I told my friends, I want to be in that wedding too. Oh, that's wonderful. You have to go to priest and you have to confess all your sins, and then, you can join the, people with this hope. And going through all of that procedure, I have to confess all these last 10 or how many years of this kind of lifestyle. And they attached me in communism to a secret priest, because they are always by the Slovak KGB, secret police, they were controlled. And the first thing what he told me, this secret priest, as a, like mentor, you need to pray to Virgin Mary. And, we got this Turin picture, if you heard about it, and Jesus was covered in the burial blanket. They say there was imprint on that, and in Turin, in Italy, they keep it as a sacred relic. Thank you. And they say American NASA was able to make a 3D picture out of it, and when you look at this picture, you can find it online somewhere. This is very fascinating, very, very beautiful face, and very deep, So I had a picture of Jesus, and from my mother's wardrobe I picked up some statue of beautiful Virgin Mary with a nice face. That's how I was praying. So that was my conversion experience, but it was to Catholic Church. And about that time, a year later, I was finishing the university, and I was dating a lady who became my first wife. Renata is her name, and Renata means born again. Renatus, to be born again, and that's what we are praying with Sylvia for her, to be born again. So what happened was that we decided to get married, even she kind of was not sure if that should really happen. So it was a big mistake, and I couldn't imagine life without her, so I couldn't understand what's wrong and all of that. I was riding the bike 50 kilometers to the university town where she was, just to show how much I love her, and trying to bring flowers and everything, but at the end it didn't work out. And
even the priest told you not to marry her.
yeah, Sylvia is reminding us stories. So the priest, I'm coming to Catholic priest, and 4 years I was dating her, and he says, you know what, the school is atheistic. Your wife, the mother of children, will teach them atheistic because she was raised as in communistic family. And all the friends on the street will be also teaching children, your children away from God. So how do you want to cope with these three powerful influences? And I said, no, I love her so much, I'm sure it will work out. And God made a miracle. We got married, and we made a deal. If she wants to sleep Sunday a little longer in the bed, it's okay, and I will take the children to the church. So she was kind of okay with it. And firstborn, Philip, was my son, born in 1990. And that's actually, it worked like that. But that was right year after fall of communism, and some Adventists, they opened vegetarian club. And that was amazing thing. So both of us, with my first wife, we were kind of interested in Eastern religion and vegetarianism and all of that. So she signed up to participate in that club. And the lady, she has a talk with her, and another lady, she says, you know what, you practice yoga, so why don't you exercise yoga with our club members? But this Adventist lady, when she heard it, she says, no way, no yoga in this vegetarian club. Imagine in your cooking class, someone will bring some yoga exercise, so you will not agree with it. And she says, what's wrong with that? Like my first wife, she was surprised, so she invited her home for a visit, and she gave her 2 tapes. As they discussed as she was going home, and there was some testimony on one tape of a man who was sensible. With his hands he would just go over the body, and he would tell you what's your diagnosis, what's your problem. Then he would go over some place and he would say this kind of herbs will help you, and that would really work. And this man, they have different names, these kind of people, these healers, natural healers. He was actually helping people on one end, but later on he realized that he's under control of some strange powers, and he's losing the simple joy of life, and he got into depression and all of those kind of very negative kind of demon oppression upon him. And so he almost died. He just remembered from grandma some cross, and he says, in the name of that cross, please, if you are there, help me. And he became Adventist, so by miracle he escaped from this kind of a heavy, dark spiritual world. And that was the testimony on the tape, and we are listening, and I'm amazed. My wife, atheist, she's listening, Christian, kind of testimony. I was happy. And my wife, she invited me to visit a lady. Her name is Antonia. I just spoke with her a few weeks ago. My spiritual mother, and I'm coming to visit, and I'm asking her, like, who are you? I was trying to figure out what religion she is, and she says, I'm a Christian. I said, I'm also Christian. But where is the difference? So maybe I should move the pictures. These are my parents. We go by Bible, and I say, we also go by Bible. And so where is the difference? Oh, we go by 10 commandments. She was trying just to as softly as she could with me. We also go by 10 commandments. So where is the difference? And she says, so can you read me those 10 commandments? Oh, I don't know where it is. So she opens the Bible in Exodus 20. She's asking me to read the 10 commandments. First time in my life I kind of handle, this kind of passage. And I'm of course running through, I'm your God who brought you out of the deliverance, out of Egypt, out of slavery. And you come to you shall remember Sabbath day to keep it holy. And I'm kind of like, what's going on? That should be Sunday, right? No, it's Sabbath. And she says, so we go by what is written. By what is written? Tomorrow I have to go to Catholic priest to ask him what's wrong, why we go by Sunday when it is written Sabbath. And after many years she told me, all night I didn't sleep, I was praying for you. Can you believe that? And that's kind of a prayer spirit she has until now. She prays for so many people. She did so many cooking classes, so many people through her. Her dream was to start a little church in our little town, because in whole Slovakia we have like 2,000 Adventists. So she is a lifelong missionary with all her heart. And, fighting spiritually for people. And so I don't know what happened, I just decided, if that's what's written, then let's do it. And so we just decided to keep the Sabbath. So she brought another Adventist, he was teaching us all the doctrines. I was excited for every new lesson, and I said, okay, we came to baptism, so where is the water? So I was very fast. Everything what they told me, I didn't see a problem with that, so I just embraced it with all my heart. And my first wife, she said that actually I was so afraid that our family will fall apart, so I was just quietly behind you, like, yes, but I was not fully convinced. And so we were baptized together. So, what I told the Catholic priest that it will work out, so I thought it worked out, but it really didn't work out, because that was not a deep personal conviction that would be her own. And so that's what happened. That's how God brought me, to Adventist message, and that's amazing because it was November 15, 1991, when I was baptized with my first wife. And very same day, a year later, that will be like first year baptism, like a birthday anniversary. There comes invitation to theological seminary in Czech Republic in Prague, and they were choosing people to be trained in a lifestyle education in Wildwood. And that's how I actually ended up here at Hergelia through all of this chain of events. So this is just part of my family. My cousin, he likes to organize all these big meetings, and they managed to do it such a way when we came from United States to the same weekend. I was crying. I didn't see these people for hundreds of years.
This is the Hungarian family.
Yeah, that's my Hungarian clan, the Huns. These are all the Huns. Yeah, so we are part of it. And these are my two sons, Philip on the left and Adam. And I found the picture. My son Philip, he was so amazing. When I introduced Sylvia to my sons and we came to live to Puchov, she says, I will arrange, no, we just came to visit to Puchov from Hergelia, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And Philip says, I can arrange meeting with my mom and with you. And she says, wow, really? She was shocked. And so they had a good time, as you can see.
No, that wasn't from that. That's from this picture here is from...
Oh, from the meeting.
From the reunion. This is the reunion with the Hungarian family.
Yes.
And what happened at this moment was I was asking her a question, and and then we both just started laughing because it was kind of a funny question. And so Renata and I, we were, I don't know if you want to say we're friends, but we mutually understand each other. I prayed for her, and we both prayed for her. We don't have anything against each other or anything. So we have a pretty good relationship. We can talk and so forth. So I'll kind of share that a little bit when we talk about before we got married.
Yeah. So I want to show you. I have 2 grandchildren from Adam, the youngest son. This one is Timothy on the left side, and Matthias is on the right side. He was born now in December. Maybe you remember I was mentioning. So we go to the next part, and our 6 minutes are running out in 30 minutes. So I guess. So how we met? This is your turn, and I start with a picture, and then I switch back to Sylvia. Do you want to say something about these books, honey? Or book?
Yes, of course. You can leave them there for a minute.
Okay.
So some people in the beginning of the school year had asked me about how Ludo and I met and so forth, and so this is my opportunity to share. As you guys know, I came to Heraclea at 40 years of age, so I was the oldest of that school year. So you can kind of get an idea of my perspective of coming there as an older person. But before I even came to Heraclea, I had gone to, I had pretty bad, different relationships. I had my first relationship was an Adventist pastor's son, and that was kind of a disaster. So I kind of vowed that I would never date an Adventist guy, because if they're all like that, I don't even want to date an Adventist guy. So I dated some worldly guys, different guys and stuff. And, it was similar. Didn't matter if they were Adventist or not. The difference makes if the person is a converted, person to Christ and really believes in Him. So what I started doing with all these mistakes and challenges and my choices that I made in men, I started trying to study what would be a good Christian man, what would be a good Christian woman, and what to look for. And so I did I've never read so many books in my life. I Kissed Dating Goodbye, Finding Mr. Right, and everything. And then somebody recommended this book that you see here, The Key to Becoming a Strong and Irresistible Husband is Discovering the Mind of a Woman. And I found the book and I started reading it, and it's written by a man for men. So it wasn't really for a woman to read the book, it's written for men.
You wanted to find out something from insiders, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I decided to read it, and I couldn't put the book down because it was kind of pretty amazing to see the different aspects. I don't agree with everything he said. He's a evangelical, I guess, pastor or writer. I didn't agree with everything he said, but there were some concepts in there that were very solid, and I really liked them. So I thought to myself, this is a really good book to share with men who are married, that they could have a better marriage. So I asked the pastor of our church if I could have couples meetings. Here I'm single, and I wanted to have couples meetings. And so I asked him, and he said sure. And so I started to do that. But I didn't use this book because I knew it was an Adventist, so I was using other Adventist things and stuff. But I really enjoyed it. I saw couples really connecting and coming together, and so I said, there's something that if a guy would just even read this book, I would just even consider him just to be a boyfriend or whatever. And then I said to myself, if this guy would even teach this book, man, I would consider him for marriage. So these are my thoughts after reading this book. I discovered the other book, Discovering the Heart of a Man, after we got married, so it was a little bit later that I got that book. So anyway, so I come to Romania in 2004. No, excuse me, 2004. I came to Romania the first time. I came on a project called Share Him. We did evangelistic meetings in Timișoara. There was, I guess there was 12 of us that came from my local church from Redwood City, and we came and we shared the evangelistic meetings in our churches. I had my own church and I had a pastor there, and he was my translator, very nice young couple, him and his wife. And I had some amazing experiences there, things that opened my eyes to how beautiful and how much God's character can shine out when you're teaching truth and serving others. So it's just such a wake-up call for me. And that pastor and his wife, they had such interesting thoughts of Hergelia, because I had never heard of Hergelia, but they gave me a magazine called Viață Sănătate, which is the health magazine that Hergelia gives out. And I received it and I looked through it and I thought, wow, this is really nice. It's all health and everything. And so I thought, as I turned to the last page, there was a picture of Hergelia there, of the balcony area. And I said to myself, you know, one day I'm gonna go there. And I didn't realize that in 2006 I would be heading to Hergelia, and that's another story. So I'll kind of skip how God just opened the doors and everything for me to come as a 40-year-old, because supposedly in Hergelia it was from 18 to 35 or 30. I think it was 18 to 30 that they were taking students. So I'm a little bit of an exception of 40 years old. And so anyway, so God brought me to Hergelia. I came early to Timișoara again. I went like 2 weeks early, and I went to Timișoara to the church that I had done some evangelistic meetings, and it was so nice to see how many people had gotten baptized and had changed, and it was just amazing experience. And so after I finished there, I heard some interesting rumors about the directors at Hergelia from the people. So it was kind of oh wow, what did I get myself into? So it was kind of interesting. And then so I come to Hergelia, and I came and I had to wait 2 hours at the bus stop where they dropped me off. Where most of you guys were at Petra, where we pick up Petra, over at that bus station there. I had to wait 2 hours for somebody to pick me up. I was already ready to find some other way to go back home, because I said, if I have to wait 2 hours here for somebody to pick me up, this is not a good place. So he finally showed up, and with his broken English, he said to me, oh, I'm sorry. And I said, oh, it's okay. And he goes, do all Americans always say it's okay? It was sort of funny the way he kind of said that to me. So I came to Hergelia, and none of the directors were there because they were gone on some little retreat before the start of school. So I came in, I met some of the girls there, and there was a rumor that there was a 40-year-old woman coming to Hergelia, and so what does she look like? And so it was kind of an interesting situation for me. I didn't know that till later on. And then, so I came in, they gave me my room and everything, and the next morning, I guess, was classes. We started first day of class, and as you see where the old piano used to be with that window, that's where I used to sit, so I could see when they opened up the door, and that's when the director came in. So Daniel Sanook was the director, and Ludo was the director also. Well, Ludo was the head director, and Daniel was the assistant director. So Daniel came in and they came right straight for me. It was just so funny. It was like cracking up. So they shake my hand. Oh, Daniel. Oh, hey, nice looking. Okay. And so I went on, and then later on, then Ludo came in, big smile on his face like always, and he came up and he shook my hand. Oh, nice to meet you. So you're the one that I was communicating with. Oh, okay. So we had class, we had everything, and then they called me back. There was another girl from Canada there, Chelsea, who I just spoke to. I think it was last week. She was like Yasmin's age, kind of around there. She's the youngest one we had. Very interesting. So we were both the two North Americans coming together on this project. It was called Mission Extreme. So anyway, it was kind of a mission extreme. And then, let's see, so then they took us aside, and Ludo and Godfrey was the Bible teacher at that time. So he went out to the side of the boys' house, and we sat out there, and they interviewed us and talked to us. And I was sitting there, and I was just looking at Ludo, and I said, wow, he's nice looking, and he has such beautiful blue eyes, and I was just looking at them, and all of a sudden he turned and looked at me, and I said, oh no, he caught me looking at him in his eyes, I said, oh no, I'm going to get in trouble. It's just my first day here, And so, but when we spoke later, he said he didn't even notice that I was looking at him. So,
Why is that blind?
So anyway, after that interview with the two of them, they called me after we had class again. They called me to speak to me again, and they had asked me if I was interested in being girls' dean and a student at the same time. And I told them I would pray about it. I wasn't sure, being in a foreign country, how I would communicate with the girls and everything. But then it turned out that year was the year that we had the most English-speaking Romanians. And
Let me make interjection.
Sure.
So normally we will teach 6 months English, that all the courses afterwards will be in English, this medical missionary training program. And this is the first school year when we had out of, some 20 students, we had 7 which were fluent in English. They didn't need to kill 6 months in English. So we had to figure out what are we going to do with them to make it meaningful. So we thought, let's make a special classes just for them while others are learning English. That's all what I wanted to say.
Okay. So they brought me after this class. They took me, and Godfrey and Ludo were standing there, and so they asked me those questions, and then Ludo asked if I would be interested in helping him teach a class. And I said, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I wouldn't mind helping you. And I said, what are you teaching? He says, oh, it's a family class. And I said, oh, okay. What book are you using? And he goes, oh, let me go get it for you. So he went to the office just across the hall, and he came back in, and he had this book that was photocopied. I mean, the whole book was just photocopied. And I looked at the title of the book, and my mouth just fell to the floor. It was called Discovering the Mind of a Woman. And I said, you teach this book? and he said, yeah. And I said, really? And I just kind of looked at him, and we talked a little bit more, and then I left, and I ran to my room, which is now where Gardine sleeps, and Trudy. And I ran over there, and I kneeled down on the floor in the room, and I just started praying. I said, Lord, this is my first full day there, and you're already showing me this when I had asked a long time ago. And so one of the main things that I prayed for that night or that day was to ask God to guard my heart, because it was just too early to be allowing my feelings to come out when I didn't know him very well, even though I had a very clear sign from God that he wanted in the future. So I really guarded my heart really well. I protected tried to protect myself a lot from allowing my feelings to take over instead of really studying and searching who he was. So during that school year, I learned about him. I wanted to know why he was divorced. I wanted to know about his children. I wanted to know different things. So I spoke to different people in Hergelia who had met his children, who knew about him. And one of the main things I wanted to do was to meet his ex-wife too. So when Philip had said that he would introduce me to his wife, to his mom, I said, that's just what I wanted to do. And so I did. I got to meet her, and I asked her she asked me questions, but I asked her the same questions back because I wanted to have that clarification that there would never be something again between them. You know, you always have that possibility. So I asked her some direct questions, and she gave me the answers that I needed to hear in order to confirm that Ludo and I could start a relationship. So halfway through that school year, I went to Spain, and I spent a lot of time praying and asking God if this is what He wanted from us. I did a list of what I don't like about him and what I like about him, because I got to watch him in a safe environment. I never had to feel like I was threatened in any way. I got to see his good points. I got to see his bad points. I saw how he interacted with people. I saw so many different things, and it was such a blessing to be able to do that. And so when I saw his bad points, I asked God if this is something that He would give me strength in order to be able to overcome these things. And it's interesting, at that point, there was certain things that I didn't know if I would be able to, but God kept saying to me, don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. So I moved forward, and God gave me some more signs and different things that I was asking for. And let's see, on our spring break, we went to Slovakia. I met his family.
Oh,
I met his son.
let me make another comment to it.
Sure.
So normally you date, right? Like you like somebody and you say, can we go out to eat or something, and you start a relation. But in a biblical sense, it should start from parents. It should be courting and all of that. And so we were talking about this, that somehow I realized that this is really a lady I like, because she became a mama and I was papa of school. So for us, we were constantly dealing with young people together, with the situations. And so as we were talking about that, I said, I'd like to ask your parents for permission, and if that's okay, then introduce you to my parents, if they were still alive. And so that was so beautiful to start a relation this way. And actually here, being a student and a girls team, we ask official permission from the leadership that we will be courting. And so in front of the lifestyle, there are the benches. We would sit in the public places and read up at home or some books, studying. So nothing hidden, and that was time to know each other as a person, not to start with all this emotional part. And of course, everything gradually was building up. That's all that I wanted to say.
Okay, can you did you already show the pictures of the wedding?
That's our next picture.
Yeah.
Okay, we are there.
Okay, thank you. So these are the picture on the bench. That's right in front of the boys' dorm during the youth camp, I believe. And we would wake up early morning, every morning, and we would have our devotions together. And so that's what we were doing. And one of Ludo's past students was one who took that picture of us. And then the rest of our wedding pictures, these were taken in a park not too far from the church that I grew up in Burlingame. And so I got married in the church I grew up in.
So and this is already 2 miles from Golden Gate, my dream.
Yeah.
The wedding was in the US?
Yeah. When we finished the school, Sylvia flew first, and then I flew later, and we met in California.
Yeah, because he had to meet my parents in person and ask permission in person for marriage too.
That was so scary. They didn't want to give me permission. They tried to stretch me. I'm going to the next picture, honey.
Yes, please.
Oh, honeymoon. Okay. So honeymoon, I will try to go faster through the rest of the story. This was kind of the most important. You know, when you get married, this is usually something very significant in your life. These are one of the biggest decisions you do. And in our honeymoon, I perceive it as God gave us a special gift. We had here in Herkelia during those 7 years I was serving, Pastor Wallace coming for the youth camps we are organizing, and at the barn where Simeon has the wood and all that, that's where we created auditorium. Can you imagine? And people were coming, half was inside, and we created outside kind of a roof that people could be protected from sun. And so I knew him a little bit from these 3 occasions. And when we came to California to get married, I called him like, we are looking for a place for honeymoon, and we want to go to Montana. He used to live in Montana. And he says, why don't you come to me? I'm in Oregon. And here is a family, and that family, they have a beautiful property. And you can stay, they have a place for you. So you can stay for a week or so. And so we came there, and as we are during that week enjoying each other, they painted the house, they prepared a fruit basket for us. They really made it so special. And it was the whole little house, complete just for us. And they said, we just recorded all these 40 lessons of character building, but we lost the video editor. And I told Sylvia, I'm kind of burned down after 7 years in Hercules, I need some change. And I offered that I'm willing to learn that. And they said, what? You never did video editing and you want to learn it. And somehow by God's providence, Sylvia's brother Sergio in California, he had a friend working in Amazing Facts with all this video editing. So he arranged that I could drive down to California to get a training, and I got the basics, and I was able with Final Cut Pro, to process all these old video tapes into digital form and cut and paste and all this synchronizing, all this workaround. John might know better. And so these are parents of Pastor Wallace. I just found a nice picture today. And in 2012, that couple who were kind of financing these whole revival seminars, all the recording and everything, they decided, because of the health issues, to give it to 2 of us. Pastor Wallace, meanwhile, he got a stroke, he went through all sorts of changes, so he was not part of that ministry. And so it landed in our hands, 2 of us, and from then on, we kind of carry on these messages, because I really believe that character building is something what needs more attention than just passively listening some video. So we are translating in different languages until today, and thanks some of you, we have some Chinese, some French, and some German, so we are still working. Italian is complete. We have Slovak, we have Hungarian, and Romanian I still don't have. We have just 1 lesson in Romanian. So that's our kind of a baby, what God gave us as a gift when we got married. So that would be about that. And eczema, honey, do you want to switch to eczema?
Yeah, just do it real quick.
Yeah.
So Ludo always calls it the 6 long years in hell.
And it's true.
Well, it is true to a certain extent, but it's also been one of my greatest blessings.
Afterwards, when you're out of it.
Well, during and after, you learn so much about yourself and everything. And so anyway, after we got married, a lot of changes happened in our lives. We moved to Oregon and different things. And Oregon is a very humid place. And my eczema, I always had eczema as a child, but very limited in different times. I've had it a little worse, but this was the worst that I've ever had it. I had it all over my face. I had it on my neck. I had it on both my arms. I had it on the back of my legs, just everywhere. And it was kind of like when you go through a lot of changes, you get toxic from your own self, from the way you think, from the way you deal with things, and not being able to deal with situations or different things. I learned that I have to express myself. I can't just hold things in. I also learned during all of this time about cleansing and detoxifying, which was an amazing experiences, trying to learn different things. You're always trying to learn for the cure of what will heal you. But the answer is just so close to you, and that's the Word of God. And so I spent a lot of time studying and taking in the Word of God and helping that to be my how do I say, my comfort, because I couldn't sleep at night. I had it all on my back, and I couldn't sleep at night. I went through almost, well, how many years? Almost 6 years without really sleeping through the night. I couldn't take showers because the showers felt like, you know, when you have an open wound and you put your hand in the water and it just stings. Well, I had it all over my body, so the constant shower or hot or cold water would just irritate my whole skin, and it just felt like somebody was hurting me all the time. And so there were a lot of things. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't really eat. There was a lot of, I was learning about that I could be gluten free, I could be this free, I had to change diets, I had to do so many different things. And so there was a lot of challenges in that experience, but towards the end, I met, my brother Herb had just come back from Guatemala, and he had met my cousin. I have a lot of cousins here that I didn't know I had in Guatemala, and so I met him. He's a pastor and a naturopathic doctor, and his wife also. And she just passed away last year. But anyway, that's another story. But she was the one who took me under her care, and she thought maybe I was having some marriage issues, so she was talking to me about that. It was kind of interesting. And then they took me through a thing just telling me to relax and just study God's Word. And so I spent a lot of time doing that. I also had classes with them on herbs and natural remedies and stuff. So that was one of a really uplifting thing. So I was learning and healing at the same time. I went through their treatments. I was still kind of itching a lot, especially on my neck. And she gave me this bath with herbs and stuff. And that was one of the first times I had relief in such a long time. And then day after day, as I was just reading and trusting God more and more, that things just kept disappearing and disappearing and disappearing, to the point where I finally realized that I wasn't scratching myself anymore. And I came back home. Ludo came to the graduation we had for graduating from natural remedies or herbal medicine. And we went back home, and I quit my job. That was another stressful thing for me, was the job that I was working at. I quit my job. And then we just started praying that God would bring us back to ministry. And that's where we ended up back at, that's the next point, honey. Modern Manna, or you wrote your book too, so.
Yeah, I can skip the book. I shared with you about the book, but it was a big thing for me, to discover the gospel in Paleo-Hebrew alphabet. So that was, some years of researching and building up slowly the beauty of the information and being able to express it somehow. So I'll skip this part. And what was amazing, Sylvia, she just finished her.
I finished in December, and then
2013, and we read in a newsletter from Danny Villa, like they are looking for elderly couple, like to help in their ministry. So we applied, but they never responded to us. And then sometime later, in February or 2014, we heard that Danny Villa is in Bay Area doing in some church kind of a weekend help program. So
and they were still looking for somebody.
Yeah, and they were again putting to us that they still look for somebody. So it looks like somebody didn't work out, so they were searching. And I told Sylvia, why don't we show our faces? That's usually easier than just this paper application. Nobody knows who is the person. And they saw us, they made an interview right on spot after their seminar, and they said, okay, you are in. And so God opened the door.
They tried us. They tested
Oh yeah,
us first.
they tested us, that's true. We passed the
I
test.
went first.
Yeah, I'm not feeling the details, but we passed through all the requirements. So I became kind of a how did he call me?
His,
Handyman. So we're doing the landscaping, gardening.
We're his,
Foreman.
I'll figure it out at the end.
Yeah. And so he bought a trailer for us, so we're living 3 years in a trailer. So that was disaster for Sylvia, So he even bought a special roof to minimize the heat of the sun, but in California, that was really unbearable. So that's a little like in a train or in a bus, that's where we were living. So there was the living room with kitchen and another special room with a tiny shower and the bedroom. The bedroom was the big bed, that's all. But it was really a blessing. Every 2 months we had a lifestyle guest. You heard Daniel and Jessica, and we really enjoyed working with these people. And to see in 10 days how much they can change, how much relief they can bring, these simple natural remedies, and the whole emphasis on detox and cleansing, because Daniel was very strong on these 7 elimination organs. So I had a chance, Sylvia had a chance every 2 months to do the cleanse of liver and all these elements. So we were, in that sense, very blessed to be able to minister to so many people and see how much it can work. So I really love it. But then we got a call, honey, right?
Yes.
So I'm in number 8, and you can talk.
Okay, so are you ready there with the Arizona picture?
Yes, we are in Arizona picture.
So this is the same couple that we met when we were at revival seminars, and they brought us into their home in Oregon, or their property.
Honeymoon,
And
so we call them Mama and Papa. Papa
we call them Mama and Papa, and they also just gave money so that we can buy new vans for the school. So we were very thankful that they truly are like a mother and father. You can't even surpass it. I asked Ludo to share this picture because you can see the beauty of Arizona. Yeah. A lot of people think that desert is very plain and ugly, but it is a very beautiful, beautiful area there in Arizona. And so we went because we got a call to teach. So I went to teach kindergarten and some first graders. You already down to that picture, Min?
Yes, I switched for you.
Okay, so these are my students. I had 2, 4, 6, well, 7. I normally was 6, but Aaliyah would come in every once in a while, and those were my kids. So they're still my kids. The 2 boys on the they're twins. They're supposed to be twins, but they're not. They all had kind of biblical names: David and Elijah, Malachi, Caleb. Ani was the only one. She's an American Indian, and Shayla, she's the only Adventist in the class. And Aaliyah and David and Elijah were brothers and sisters. They came from a family of 7. And so Shayla was the only Adventist. All the rest were non-Adventist. A lot of learning disabilities in these children, and so it's quite a growing year for me. On the other side, there's the little statue that Ludo and I have always treasured as a couple. Those are other pictures. This is a picture we have in our home that is a puzzle. It's a puzzle that Audrine and Phil, Mama and Papa, that we did together, and they framed it for us and gave it to us. So we came to Arizona without having a home, and we stayed and we lived with Phil and Audrine for almost a year. It seemed almost close to a year, and we finally found a house by God's providence. He provided a home for us, but it needed a lot of work.
Let me interject. So
yes.
one first step, this was like 11 years abandoned house. Nobody was living there, and they had a cat there which was making pee, and everything was ugly inside. Papa Phil, he ordered a container like 40 cubics or whatever, it was huge. And we had to scrape the whole roof. And he's 70 some years old, and he's on the roof, right on the very edge, scraping it down. I was so scared. And we are in the next street living with them, so it was in a neighborhood. And in the night, Mama Odin, she wakes me up. Can you go? Papa is on the roof. I'm afraid to living there alone. And so I'm in pyjama, like opening my eyes, and he's already on the roof because he heard the rain. So he was putting plastic all over because we had to scrape it, and the rain would go inside into insulation that would damage it. So with the boards, we had to cover. So I was climbing in the night to join him there, and we were trying to fight with the wind. So that looks very beautiful after all the remodeling. And here you can see we bought this tank.
You should have put a before and after.
Yeah, but we lost pictures, so we just are trying to collect. And I like the picture. The lady on the in a neighborhood, she was selling that little blackboard. I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine. So that became a kind of a motto of our family. You want to say more about it, or I can go to the next?
No, you can get to the next.
And this is how it looks at the end. We put a new floor. We broke the whole wall here. Everything looks so different. So we opened from kitchen to this living room. So it's like completely new house. And this Phil, he used to build the houses, so he knew all the details. I was just helping. It was so much learning. And they didn't know what to do with it. There was a man, he just suddenly calls from Douglas, and I want to donate piano to school. And Mama Odin, she was from childhood playing piano, so her piano was in school, and she says, what shall we do? So she gave us her piano, and they got a donated piano to school. So we have piano. A beautiful one.
Yeah, I was learning how to play, Eddie.
And we intentionally made for you the thermometer in Arizona. It's super dry, so dry that my nose was bleeding sometimes. And it's 35 and 40, so it's really not fun sometimes. But there are also cold days. We are lucky in a way, like blessed, because Bisbee, the area where we are living, it's 5,500 feet, which is maybe 1,200-300 meters above sea level. So it's cooler than other areas, so it's easier to handle the heat. It's like 10 degrees cooler than other places. That's about it, honey. We have like 4 rooms. We turned one room into a lifestyle center, and we had one church member who was like very
We have 3 bedrooms, honey. We have 3 bedrooms.
Oh, sorry, 3. In Slovakia, we count rooms differently. So we have 3
Yeah,
bedrooms, and one we turned into a kind of a guest room for the lifestyle guests. So we have a funny sauna. I don't have a picture. We bought a very nice equipment that we are able to do the treatments and all this new stuff program for them.
Yeah, we had a cellular sizer in there too.
And I'm back to Romania, honey. Do you want to take over?
We came back.
Actually, let me tell you a point. So when you look at this picture, you see the Prius under the roof?
Yeah.
So that Prius doesn't exist anymore, and thanks to that we are today here, because I'm driving to work the Prius early morning, like 5 o'clock, very dark, and suddenly the deer right in front of me. So I'm running over the deer, miracle I survived, but the Prius didn't survive. So they gave us money, we were able to buy the Nissan, and from the leftover money we were able to buy the flight to 20th anniversary here to Romania. So that's how we landed. We wanted to meet all the friends, all the people, and that's how we came.
And Sylvia with the old stove.
And Sylvia with the old stove.
With the what? Old stove?
Yeah, you are on that picture. Back to Romania if you go to the picture.
Oh, yeah, you want to see my new stove is right in my kitchen.
Yeah, we don't see. It's over there, you see, that's the new stove. Yeah. So we kind of miss our little home because it's really very, very beautiful, but we are happy to be in a mission, but you cannot replace it. That's much better. So what else you want to say? I can close, honey, right?
Yeah.
So the theme of us is, bridges, because to connect 2 people with 2 different background, cultures, and personalities, that's a miracle. How to find a bridge between us. First 3 years was really pretty tough for 2 of us to get used to each other. We are kind of both fighters. Sylvia used to call her volcano, but she's not exploding anymore. She's calming down. So it's a blessing for me. And you know, Jesus is for us the bridge to heaven. You know, we build bridges between us on a human level. But I found a beautiful picture. Look at this. Behold, and I'm paraphrasing, behold, the bridge was set on the earth, will it stop reaching to heaven. And so Jesus is trying to connect us back to Heavenly Father. And that's the idea. So I'm closing with this last slide. Jesus, the bridge builder. And of course, in this bridge building between us as humans, we need to be participating actively, because it doesn't happen without our active cooperation and involvement. So we are praising God for what He was doing in our lives and what He is still doing in our lives, because our life is not over yet. We were never so long separated. This is already more than 6 months, honey. Are you counting?
No, it's 5 months.
5 months. So it's very long. We are running the 13th year of our marriage. And hopefully by September 9 we will meet that we can celebrate another anniversary. So we praise God for giving us to each other. You know, there were these 7 students, I just realized today, there were 7 students who knew English, and how God arranged that very same year for Sylvia coming when she had that prayer, if somebody would read that book. And that same year we had students who didn't need English, so we had to create that class, and out of all classes we thought about family, and Sylvia to be part of it. So that's how we both came into it, and I was jokingly saying I had to serve like Jacob 6-7 years for my second wife, because from my divorce until Sylvia was 7 years. So it was really a blessing, and we are so happy that we can serve together the Lord. So thank you for your attention, and may God bless you. Okay. Thank you, honey, for sharing your story.